Krishna 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 Hey Krishna 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 Hey Krishna 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 Rakshamam Krishna 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 Pahimam Rama Raghava Rama Raghava Rama Raghava Rakshamam Krishna Keshava Krishna Keshava Krishna Keshava Pahimam. So the chapter so far is actually, let me hand it over to you all and see if we can all cover the chapter summary so far together. So where did we begin with this pastime? We just go back a few pages. What's the scene that we're in at the moment?
We are in the pastime of the Brahmana Patnis, where Krishna and all the Gopas, they went to a place which was not very far from the village where the Brahmana Patnis were living, and their husbands, the Brahmanas, were doing a yagya. So specifically, that pastime was created over there. So they went and they didn't take their lunch with them. So somehow the Gopas wanted something to eat. So they went to Krishna and said, could we have some lunch? And Krishna advised them to go to Brahmanas who are smarta Brahmanas, who are very much into Vedic and yogic ways of life, whereas they were not like Krishna, they were not like devotees like their wives. So they went there, and the Gopas, although they were small, they kind of knew that these Brahmanas were very ritualistic Brahmanas and who were doing yagya very ritualistically, but they didn't have the devotion for Krishna. And they went to ask the Brahmanas for the food. So somehow the Brahmanas just ignored them completely. And they went back to Krishna and Balaram, and they went to ask for the food on the name of Balaram rather than Krishna, because Balaram is more a Kshatriya. That's why they went to ask the food on the name of Balaram. So when they came to Krishna empty-handed, bit morose, but Krishna said, you shouldn't be morose. Go to the Brahmana Patnis and ask them for food. And as soon as they came to the Yagya Patni's house, they were so happy that the Gopas came, and they started picking up all the nice foods and all the nice prasadam that was made for the Yagya. They packed it up in the nice baskets and just went away. So they'd been waiting for this moment for such a long time. They had never seen Krishna. They just listened to Krishna's pastime. And just by listening and getting observed in the pastime, they became very pure devotees. So it's a lesson we can learn from this pastime, is like, if we are really, really listening to Krishna's pastime nicely and getting deeply observed into, it just cleanses your heart. And somehow the Brahmana Patnis were so eager to serve Krishna and Balaram, and even they didn't even ask their husbands, and even if the husband said no, they just like the gopis, they just left everything and they went to see Krishna and Balaram with all the picnic packaged with the gopas. So that's, I think, how far we've come.
That was like the perfect summary. All the nice details were there, all the discussion points, huh? Does anyone else have anything to add on what we discussed last week? I think that covered everything, huh? Yeah, so that's where we reached up to, and they've just come to this point where they've just seen Krishna now. They've been walking up closer and closer and closer to Krishna, seeing him from a distance, and then seeing all the details of his beautiful features, isn't it? Now they're seeing Krishna right before him. They're right before Krishna now, and so Jayaprakash will begin us from there. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Within themselves, they began to embrace Krishna to their heart's content. And the distress of separation was mitigated immediately. They were just like great sages who, by the advancement of knowledge, merge into the existence of the Supreme. As a super soul living in everyone's heart, Lord Krishna could understand their minds. They had come to him despite all the protests of their relatives, fathers, husbands, and brothers, despite all the duties of household affairs. They came just to see him, who was their life and soul. They were exactly following Krishna's instructions in the Bhagavad Gita. One should surrender to him, giving up all varieties of occupational and religious duties. He therefore began to speak to them, smiling very magnificently. It should be noted in this connection that when Krishna entered into the wise hearts, when they embraced him, felt the transcendental bliss of being merged with him. The Supreme Lord Krishna did not lose his identity, nor did the individual wives lose theirs. The individuality of both the Lord and the wives remained, yet they felt oneness in existence. When a lover submits to his lover without any pinch of personal consideration, this is called oneness. Lord Chaitanya taught us this feeling of oneness in his Siksastaka. Krishna may act freely, doing whatever he likes, but the devotee should always be in oneness or in agreement with his desires. That oneness was exhibited by the wives of Brahmins in their love for Krishna.
Yes, thank you, Prabhu. So there's one phrase which is repeated over and over in this paragraph, isn't it? Yeah. What is that phrase?
Oneness.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And then Prabhupada, he qualifies what it means, right? What does this oneness mean? And he gives a few examples as well of the relationship between these wives and Krishna. Yeah. And that helps us to understand what is meant by oneness. Did anyone see any of those examples of oneness? What is meant by oneness?
When a lover and another lover come together and there's no consideration of personal interest, then oneness, a sense of oneness, fulfillment of oneness comes.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Yeah. So two people, when they have the same interest, namely in serving one another, that's what's meant by oneness. Yeah. Is there any other examples here given? What is meant by oneness? There's one example quite near the beginning of the paragraph.
When they embraced Krishna.
Yeah. Okay, carry on. If you can say a bit more.
I just remember that the wives, they embraced Krishna, and then because of that embrace, they experienced oneness.
Yeah. So Prabhupada explains further why, how that makes sense. So it makes sense because the soul isn't complete. The soul doesn't feel complete if it doesn't have that relationship with Krishna. So this is another way of looking at it. We're not one. We're not, when it said one, it means whole. We're not whole. We're not complete. We don't feel complete until we have a relationship with Krishna. So here, the wives of the Brahmanas, within their hearts, not physically, but within their hearts, they embrace Krishna because they've seen him physically, face to face, in front of them. But they embraced him within their hearts. And when that happened, they felt complete. They felt whole. They felt one with Krishna. And so then there's a few examples. One Dan mentioned, but just before that, there's first the understanding of the sages who merge in the existence of the Supreme. Yeah. So instead of taking shelter of the material energy, we take shelter of the spiritual energy, then we'll feel complete in some sense. But further than that, that just merging into existence of the Supreme is if we connect with the Super Soul. That's even a higher level of connecting with the Supreme, even more complete. And then the most complete is when we connect with Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So Prabhupada gives these three examples because in the Shreema Bhagavatam it says that the Supreme Absolute Truth can be known in three phases. That Brahmati, Paramatmati, Bhagavanati, Shabdate, that we can know the Supreme as just being the all in all, or we can know the Supreme as being the Lord of the heart, or that we can know the Supreme as Krishna, who is the most complete, who has all personality and likes and things which his activities, his pastimes. So that's the most complete. So when someone talks about oneness, they can talk about it in any one of these ways, but we can understand that the most complete is when we have a relationship with Krishna, and then we are fully complete. So in other words, the way it's written here, they came just to see him who was their life and soul. Yeah, so it's a nice way that it's summed up. Krishna was their life and soul. Was there any other points that anyone else picked up in this paragraph? There's an instruction here from Bhagavad Gita. There's an instruction from Lord Chaitanya, Sikshastakam as well, isn't it? So we could discuss those a little bit.
Sorry, Prabhuji, I think I'm a bit lost. I just can't find the text at all.
Right.
I'm
Okay, maybe
checking online.
So we began from the paragraph which is within themselves they began to embrace Krishna. So we're in chapter 23. And the paragraph begins, within themselves they began to embrace Krishna. Yeah?
Okay.
Okay, so did anyone see that instruction from Bhagavad Gita in this paragraph?
Hare Krishna.
Yes, can you explain that one to us?
One who, the example in Bhagavad Gita, one should surrender to him, giving up all varieties of occupational and religious duties. So if one is just concentrating on Krishna and giving up everything else, mundane or any other occupation.
Yeah. So the wives of the Brahmanas, they're a perfect example of this. How is it an example of this?
Because they didn't pay much attention to what their husbands or fathers were saying, or relatives. They just wanted to see Krishna and they didn't care about anything else.
Pretty much, yeah. Yeah, that's right. So they gave up their occupational and religious duties to see Krishna, yeah. Okay, and there's an instruction from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as well, from the Shikshastakam. Anyone see that?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Archana Mataji.
Yeah, so in Sikshastaka, Krishna says that Krishna may act freely. He can do whatever he likes, but then the devotee should always be in oneness or in agreement with his desire.
And so we've touched upon the Shikshastakam many times, right? Just briefly, right? Does anyone remember some of the times we spoke about it a little bit? Yeah, maybe I'm not going to ask you to recite any verses or anything, so let me try. Does anyone remember that we've touched upon the Shikshastakam? Do you know what it is? Yes? Smita Mataji. Anyone else? Yeah, okay. Shamrani as well, yeah, okay. So these are the 8 prayers of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Yeah, it's coming up to Gaurapunim very soon, at the end of this month. So it's a nice discussion point here. But this is the 8th verse of the 8 verses. So this is the final verse of the Shikshastakam. This one is considered to be the highest level of devotional service to Krishna. And this is what these Brahmin Patnis had, this level of surrender. So, so here it said that Krishna may act freely doing whatever he likes. Yeah. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, whether Krishna embraces me or whether he abandons me, still he'll always be my Lord. Yeah, eternally. So because their love is so strong, they don't mind how Krishna responds, even whether he responds or not, even. But because their love is so strong, they will still love Krishna no matter what. That is the level of this love which is spoken about. Okay. So we can move on unless there's any comments, questions. Jay Prakash Prabhu, would you like to read on?
Krishna welcomed them with the following verse: my dear wives of the Brahmanas, you are all very fortunate and are welcome here. Please let me know what I can do for you. You're coming here to see me, neglecting all the restrictions and hindrance of relatives, fathers, brothers, and husbands, is completely befitting. One who does this actually knows his self-interest, because rendering transcendental loving service unto me without motive or restriction is actually auspicious for the living entities. Do you want me to continue?
So there was one point in here which I just wanted to bring out a little bit further, and it's quite important here. Now Krishna says, he says this sentence here. He says, please let me know what I can do for you. Yeah. So this is actually what it's like to meet Krishna. We can just imagine from this conversation, you see, that these Brahmana Patnis, they've come to Krishna, they've surrendered everything. Sarva dharma prityaja mamekam sharanam vraja. Just like he says in Bhagavad Gita. This is the essence of the Bhagavad Gita. Aham tvam sarva patebhyo mokshayisha shamima suchaha. Like they've surrendered everything now and come to Krishna. And Krishna says to them, please let me know what I can do for you. Krishna is reciprocating with them. Yeah. So this was the whole mission of Krishna in this chapter, to come to this point, because he wanted to serve them. Yeah, they were constantly hearing about him and remembering him and meditating on him. Yeah, just like we are trying to do in our spiritual lives to a greater or lesser degree. Yeah, and then finally they get to meet Krishna. Yeah, the Lord of their life. And Krishna is saying, what can I do for you? Come here to me. Yeah? So this is very sweet. This is actually the reciprocation of Krishna. So not only we perform loving service to Krishna, Krishna certainly performs loving service in return. So I thought that was quite nice. Unless anyone else wants to add, we can continue. Okay, Prabhuji.
Lord Krishna here confirms that the conditional soul can reach the highest perfectional state by surrendering to him. One must give up all other responsibilities. This complete surrender onto the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the most auspicious path for the conditional soul, because the Supreme Lord is the supreme objective of love. Everyone is loving himself according to the advancement of his knowledge. Ultimately, when a person comes to understand that his self is the spirit soul and the spirit soul is nothing but a part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, he recognizes the Supreme Lord as the ultimate goal of love, and then surrenders onto him. This surrender is considered auspicious for the conditional soul. Our life, property, home, wife, children, house, country, society, and all paraphernalia, which are very dear to us, are expansions of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is the central object of love because he gives us all bliss, expanding himself in so many ways, according to our different situations, namely bodily, mental, or spiritual.
Right. So in the beginning, we spoke a little bit about what is really meant by oneness, isn't it? Because it's very often misunderstood in the Vedic context what oneness really means. In fact, most people, they take this impersonalist view of what oneness means. Yeah, but really oneness means to be complete by having a relationship with Krishna, or having the same desire as Krishna's desire. Yeah, and here another misunderstanding is dispelled. There's another misunderstanding that people have when they read Vedic literatures, and that is what does Krishna mean when he says we should give up all responsibilities, all duties. When Krishna says Sarva Dharman Pratyaja, what does he mean when he gives up all those responsibilities and duties? And that's explained here very nicely. So what thoughts do you have on that? Did you see from this paragraph how Krishna is relating to giving up one's duties and responsibilities? What does that actually mean in context? Yes, Haribol.
I'd say that sort of relates to more giving up attachment to them. So not necessarily, just giving up having a healthy attachment to them.
Yeah, that's a very nice point. Giving up attachment to responsibilities and duties. Okay. Mm-hmm. Anyone else would like to add or look at it from a different angle of vision?
So it says over here that they are basically expansions of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So in other words, they, all that we believe to be our own, they actually belong to Krishna anyway. So whatever we do, rather than doing it for us and calling them my home, my wife, so do our duty in order to serve Krishna. That if you're serving, if you're taking care of your wife or your children, you take care of them not because they are your wife or your children, but because they're also expansions of Krishna. You take care of your house or country, but because they are properties given to you by Krishna, and so it is do it as a duty to Krishna rather than a duty to yourself or your immediate surroundings.
Yeah, that's a really wonderful way of putting it. Yeah, do it as a duty to Krishna rather than as a duty to yourself, isn't it? Yeah. So all these things are belonging to Krishna anyway, actually. Yeah. Sorry, Dan, did you want to add something?
Yeah, you're very, very observant. Saw my microphone click on and off. Yeah, the thing is that all of these things, these are Krishna. So it's like, they're like Prabhupada said, they're all expansions of Krishna. So the happiness that we're getting from being with our family and our wife and our husband and children, and that sense of community in the house, these are all Krishna. It's not, this is Krishna, this is just a different expansion of Krishna. And yeah, that's Krishna, the Krishna. So I don't know what I'm trying to say, but yeah.
That's perfectly correct what you're saying. Yeah, all these things are actually Krishna. Yeah. So one who is in Krishna consciousness.
Love for Krishna. Sorry.
It's
love for Krishna, but in a perverted way, in a something which is temporary. It's not. It's our love is perverted. It's clouded. When really those things are still Krishna. So you are loving Krishna, but it's kind of perverted love. So.
Yes, Srila Prabhupada, he teaches us that there are two things. There is Maya and there is Krishna. And where there is Krishna, there cannot be Maya. And when there is Maya, we cannot see Krishna. And it's as different as day and night. When there is a sun, like Krishna, then darkness cannot stand. And when there is darkness, we cannot. If we're in darkness, then we cannot see Krishna. So just like that, we may be sitting in our room and the sun may be coming in or it may not be coming in. So like that, we go about our daily responsibilities, our duties, and we have our home and so on and so forth, our property, a home, wife, children, house, country, all these things mentioned. So we can either see them as Krishna or we can see them as Maya. So Maya, Prabhupada explains, Maya means that which is not. It's a very interesting definition. This is actually the way Prabhupada explains what Maya means. Sometimes people just say Maya means illusion, which is what also Maya means illusion. But what is illusion? Illusion means when you think of something, when you think something to be you think of this to be something, but it's actually not that. So Prabhupada says in another way, Maya is that which is not. So we think this is my home, this is my family, this is my possessions. So when we think of it being mine, that's Maya. When we think of it being Krishna's, then it is Krishna's because factually it's Krishna's. And the view of the thing is the same, but we're just seeing it in a different light. Just how like Krishna is sunlight, when we're seeing it in the sunlight rather than in the darkness.
Prabhuji, I have a question around this. So Maya can't exist where Krishna is, but Maya is also serving, she's illusion, but she's actually, by being illusion, she's serving Krishna, isn't it? She's doing what Krishna has instructed her to do.
Yes.
So she's also serving Krishna. So why does Krishna run away from her? So why not? Why can't we say yes? Maya is wrong. So overcome Maya, but you can. It's not completely. It's not. It's not like a demon version of. If you want to put black and white, Maya can't be completely black because Maya is created by Krishna as well.
Yes.
So
yes, of course, everything is created by Krishna. Everything has relationship to Krishna.
She's doing the service, isn't she?
She is indeed. She's doing a very good service. Her service is to keep us away from Krishna, and she does it very well. Yeah. So it's a hard service to do, isn't it? But she's doing that service indeed. So so we respect her for that, very much, and actually we should acknowledge that she's very powerful. She's a very great devotee of Krishna, because, as we see in the world around us, everyone is taking shelter of her. She's giving shelter to everyone. But that shelter is keeping people in illusion about Krishna. That's the shelter that she gives. That's her service, to give that shelter. Yeah. Whereas our shelter is the shelter of Srimati Radharani, yeah, the shelter of the spiritual energy by the chanting of Hare Krishna, Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So we're constantly calling Radharani's name, Hare Hare, Hare Hare, Hare, you know?
Yeah.
So Krishna gives us the choice which shelter we want. Yeah. Is that okay?
Yeah, no, I understand. No, I mean, I completely understand why Maya is wrong, but I never could understand why Krishna doesn't exist at the same place, because I've been to temples where I've seen the deities of, you know, any a Durga deity, and then I've seen a Krishna deity next to her. And I've gone to temples where there's only either Radha Krishna deity and no Durga, or there's only Durga and then there and Shiv, but no Radha Krishna. So I always get confused that which one is right. I mean, you know, because Maya's serving Krishna as well. She's a demigod, which by definition she's serving Krishna. So in that case, Krishna doesn't hate his devotees. So why is it that Maya is wrong, and Krishna advises us not to follow her? I mean, if you know, to love Krishna directly. But at the same time, I didn't really realize whether Krishna hated Maya. But Maya is also his devotee, so he can't really hate his devotee. So I mean, I don't know if I'm making sense or not. I mean, it was always one of those questions which always kind of perplexed me.
Yeah, from my understanding, the standard isn't to see how the temples are arranged as such, because you'll see sometimes that temples are arranged properly, and sometimes you'll see that they are not. So then that isn't the standard for trying to understand the situation correctly. Better is to look at the Shastra and see how scriptures explain the relationship between Krishna and Maya. So Krishna talks in the Bhagavad Gita about it many times. Maya dakshina prakriti suyate sacharacharam. You know, Krishna says that so many verses. Krishna says that material energy is my superior energy. Yeah, so we have to take either shelter of Krishna's material energy, or we have to take shelter of Krishna's superior spiritual energy. Yeah. Not so much to do with how the temples are arranged and laid out. Yeah, because we can see it's done properly some places and some places not. You know, one good example I would think of is the temple of Shiva Ramswamy in Hungary. You see, because at his temple, outside the temple, they have the deities of Lord Shiva, they have Parvati outside the temple, and you take the blessings of Shiva and Parvati before you go in. And then inside the temple, you have Radha Shyam Sundar, yeah, and Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And so it's like that. When we want to go to the spiritual world, we have to surpass all of this material world. We have to go through all of the planetary systems. You know, we have to go past even Brahma Loka, and then we have to exit the material nature altogether. So we can't do that unless we have the blessings of you know, material nature, mother nature. You know, otherwise she will always keep us in the darkness. Yeah.
Yeah, I understand. Thank you.
There's a pastime as well in the Gaura Leela, where Parvati, she's seeing that her husband Lord Shiva, he's chanting. She sees him chanting this mantra, Gauranga, 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 and he's dancing in ecstasy. And she asks, what is this mantra and why are you chanting it? If you continue dancing like this, you'll end up destroying the universe. So better you stop and tell me why you're chanting. And then he explains to her peacefully that because the avatar of Krishna is Gauranga Mahaprabhu, and he's giving Krishna prema to everyone, he's giving love of God to everyone. So just by chanting this name Gauranga, whether one is the most sinful of all sinners, or whether one is, you know, the most like pakka of all Brahmanas. Krishna will give Krishna prem. Himself will give Krishna prem. Anyone and everyone. And so she's feeling very upset on hearing this great news. She's feeling very upset because she thinks, well, my service as Maya Devi is to keep everyone away from Krishna. So Krishna will never give Krishna prem to me. Lord Chaitanya will never give Krishna prem to me. So she decides to go to Navadvip before Gauranga Mahaprabhu appears in Navadvip. And she sits down and performs austerity there. And then as she's doing that, she's chanting the same mantra, Gauranga, 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 on her mala, and she's chanting, you know. And eventually, after this long austerity, and actually blissful austerity, we always think of austerity as being something, you know, tormenting, but she's actually very blissful. And after a long time, then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu reveals himself to her. Yeah. And then when he does so, she bows down to him and she takes the dust from his feet and puts it on the parting of her hair. Yeah. And so this is actually what's done by a wife, isn't it? This is called Simanti, isn't it? So she becomes known that from that day as Simantini Devi. Yeah. And Krishna blesses her that you will preside over this, Navadvip Dham, and you will be the one who allows people to enter into the pastimes. And for those who are not sincere, you will be able to keep them away. So from this pastime, we can understand so many things. First of all, that she's very dear to Krishna for doing this service, you know? Like just like you have your home and you don't let anyone and everyone into your home. So Krishna is the same. He has Goloka Vrindavan. He has, you know, Nitya Navadvip in the spiritual world. He doesn't just let anyone in, you know? So she has that very valuable service of letting someone in. Krishna, you know, if you were to let someone in your home, you'd have to have a pretty good, you know, security guard or someone you can trust very much to do that. So that's Krishna's security system, you know? Durga Devi, right? No one can mess with a lady on a tiger, right? So that's it. So we can learn that she's very dear to Krishna. Yeah, so much so that she takes the dust of his feet and puts on a parting of her hair. And so she eternally resides in the spiritual world in one form as Yoga Maya, and in the material world as Mahamaya, as the material nature. Yeah. Is that okay?
Yeah. Thank you. Thanks very much. It makes me understand now. Absolutely fine.
It's a nice pastime. You can read about it in more detail. The pastime of Simantini Devi. And there's a temple in Mayapur, which you can even see today, of that pastime. Very beautiful deities of Lord Chaitanya and Parvati, which you can see there. Yeah.
Hopefully I'll be able to go. But I'm still waiting for Mataji to do that tour.
Yeah.
Not sure when she's going to, but yeah.
Hare Krishna, I just wanted to add something on this this pastime as well. Yeah, I just wanted to add that, you know, my understanding was that, you know, Maya Devi is like, you see, it's just testing us to see if we are completely purified to go to Golok Vrindavan. And until we are not, she keeps on putting all these obstacles and things on our path to purify us. Because as Sachin was mentioning, that until, if it is your house, you wouldn't let anybody, any person from the street, let them in your house until you know them and they have got that relation with you. We're not going to get everybody in the same way. That was my understanding, that if we were going to Golok to Golok Vrindavan, we should really purify ourselves before and be accepted by Krishna. So we can only be accepted until, you know, like fully surrendered and purified. And she puts these obstacles to cleanse our heart and see if we can pass that exam, we could say exam, to move one step forward to Krishna. That was my understanding. That's why that is her service for Krishna.
Yeah. So she's our examiner. Yeah. It's like we have to take tests in life. On that note, I don't know if my mom wants me to say, but tomorrow she's doing her exam, isn't it, Mom? You want to say? You're on mute at the moment. You're on mute, so we can't hear you.
Yeah, I am.
Yeah.
Let's see what happens.
Yeah. Do you want to say what it is, or it's okay if you don't want to?
Not now, maybe after everything's over.
Yeah. Okay. So more to be revealed next week. All right. So my mom's having an exam tomorrow. So everyone, please give your blessings. And she passes with flying colors.
Yep.
All right.
I think you'll be without a doubt.
So
Haribol.
Thank
let's
you.
move on to the next paragraph then. Do we have any more readers? It would be nice if some more devotees could volunteer. Who's our second reader? Smita
I'm
Mataji's next. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm next.
Okay. Would you like to go ahead?
Yeah.
I think we're reading from My Dear Wives of the Brahmanas paragraph.
My dear wives of the Brahmanas, Krishna said, you can now return to your homes. Engage yourselves in sacrificial activities and in the service of your husbands and household affairs, so that your husbands will be pleased with you, and the sacrifice which you have begun will be properly executed. After all, your husbands are householders, and without your help, how can they execute their prescribed duties?
Okay. So Krishna is telling them to return home here, isn't it? Yeah. Okay. So that might come as a surprise. Did that surprise anyone? They've come all the way to see Krishna. Yeah. And then what does Krishna say? Go home. You surrendered to me already. Yeah. So then what do the Brahmana Patnis say next?
Shall I carry?
Yes.
The wives of the Brahmanas replied, Dear Lord, this sort of instruction does not befit you. Your eternal promise is that you will always protect your devotees, and now you must fulfill this promise. Anyone who comes and surrenders onto you never goes back to the conditioned life of material existence. We expect that you will now fulfill your promise. We have surrendered onto your lotus feet, which are covered by tulsi leaves, so we have no desire to give up the shelter of your lotus feet and return to the company of our so-called relatives, friends, and society. And what shall we do if we return home? Our husbands, brothers, fathers, sons, mothers, and friends will no longer accept us at home, because we have already left them all. Therefore, we have no shelter to return to. Please, therefore, do not ask us to return home, but arrange for our stay under your lotus feet, so that we can eternally live under your protection.
So yes, Krishna has asked them to return home, but they're praying, Krishna, please keep us at your lotus feet. So they actually want to stay with Krishna. Yeah. So what does this teach us? What have you learned from this? What have you thought about this?
They don't want to leave Krishna.
Yes.
They want to give up everything.
So they feel like they've already given up everything. They've gone away from their home already. Yeah. And what else? Anything else?
Does it teach us to perform our duties at the same time? Like Krishna is telling Arjuna to perform his duties. So this Brahma Patni's duty is to be with the husband and the family.
Yeah. Yeah, good example of Arjuna. Huh? Arjuna, he didn't want to fight. So he surrendered to Krishna. because he thought if I don't want to fight, then better I surrender to Krishna. So then he surrendered to Krishna, but then Krishna told him to fight anyway. Yeah. So same here. The Brahmana Patnis, they were not interested in all these ritualistic yagyas for heavenly planets. They were interested in Krishna. So they went to Krishna, but then Krishna said, go back and do those yagyas. Okay. Anything else? Anyone else?
It just shows the power of, or not the power, the sweetness of the nectar of Krishna Prem, isn't it? It allows you to completely overcome and forego any other. I mean, if you're really able to love Krishna, then you will not even think twice about the other happiness that that you otherwise would have thought that's happiness. But as soon as you taste the nectar of Krishna Prem, all those happiness seem quite petty in front of Krishna Prem. So you're able to leave them without a second thought.
Yeah, that's very deep, isn't it? Huh? Yeah. Very deep kind of love. Huh? One can forego their own happiness and distress. So this is what's meant by oneness, that they actually will just do what Krishna wants them to do. There's no consideration even of what they want to do. Huh? They of course want to be with Krishna, but if Krishna doesn't want them to be with him, and he wants them to go and perform their duties, like is the case with Arjuna, then they'll go and do that. That's what makes Krishna happy. That's what will ultimately make them happy. That's actually what makes one complete, by doing what Krishna wants one to do. So,
Haribol.
Hare Krishna.
Krishna.
Is that Sachinandan Prabhu?
Yeah, Satyanarayana. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah, this is about relationship, Arjuna's relationship with Krishna. Arjuna was a friend as well as relative of Krishna. Yeah? But when he decided, because he was bewildered, and when he decided to become when he decided to surrender to Krishna, so first what he did, he changed his relationship.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah, he gave up his relationship as a friend or relative, and he became a disciple. So like a whole thing, other way around,
Yeah, that's a good point. So Arjuna did actually change his relationship with Krishna.
Yeah.
So his pastime was that he was Krishna's family member and friend, and then he became his surrendered disciple or student through the course of learning Bhagavad Gita. Yeah.
Since he changed the relationship, he started understanding more.
Yes. Yes, Prabhupada does say that, unless Arjuna actually did that, unless Arjuna said, "Oh Madhusudan, please, tell me what I should do."
Yeah.
Until that point, then Krishna didn't speak. For the first chapter, Krishna didn't say one word, Bhagavad Gita. And it wasn't until text 12, I think, text 11, 12, like in the second chapter, then Krishna starts speaking from there. Until Arjuna, because first chapter was just Arjuna complaining. And then Arjuna realized this isn't working, I have to surrender. And then Krishna spoke. Yeah.
Yeah, in this case, Hare Krishna, sorry, about our duties and that, Krishna doesn't want us to get away from. He wants us to surrender to him, but at the same time, he says you are responsible for your duty. So you have to go back to saying to Brahmana's wife, because if Brahmanas are doing yajna for whatever reason, but the yajna sacrifice won't be completed without your support to them. So always yajna or something, we're doing sacrifice. If it's a married couple, if one person does, a husband does, if wife is not supporting, he doesn't get the benefit of that. So always, if you say that, they always, if a married couple, they will always say, you sit together. the yagya.
Yes,
So,
that's a nice point.
yeah, so that's why it's telling them, yeah, okay, you surrender, I'll take you whatever you've given your heart to me, I understand that, but you have to go back and do your duty because they are doing sacrifice to Vishnu, even though I don't know. That's what my understanding is. So
Yeah, very nice point.
Yeah.
Yeah, from what I understood from what you said, Mataji, is that because Krishna also says in Bhagavad Gita that we should be attached to performing our duties, but we should not be attached to the results which come from performing our duties.
Yeah, that's right.
You know, but many times when we're not in Krishna consciousness, we think the other way around. We think that I should be attached to what happens from my work, but I shouldn't be attached to my work. Krishna says that's not the best approach. He says better is if you continue doing your duties no matter what happens. That's actually real detachment. Detachment isn't when we don't care about our duty. I'm not attached to doing my duty. I don't care really for my duty. Krishna doesn't want that kind of detachment, but Krishna wants the detachment that I will do my duty very sternly, but no matter what happens, I will do my duty. So that's the kind of detachment that Krishna wants us to be detached from the results of our duty, not from the duty itself. Is that what is that another way of saying that, Mataji? That's
Yes.
what I quote from.
So I like to add one thing. By attachment to duties means you don't become lazy.
Yes. That's right.
But you are on the go.
Falgu Vairagya. Yeah, we don't become like a renunciate. Prabhupada said you can be a renunciate, but don't be a monkey renunciate. He says that even monkeys are renounced. They don't wear clothes, and they just do mischief all day long. So he said, don't be like a monkey.
And duties are always there. You never finish. Like you do duty towards your husband and wife or children and family and relatives and society and world and like.
We always try to connect that to Krishna. Ultimately, it's for Krishna.
Yeah. So there's so many duties we have in household life, so many. Huh? And many times they're all stacked up upon one another. So how to do everything. How to do everything well, and at the same time, don't be attached if it doesn't all work out. So work very hard, and then also be detached.
Okay, thank you.
So this is what Krishna is saying here, that you surrendered to me, but now you continue your surrender by going back and doing your duty. So it's easy for them to run away in one sense. They were so surrendered they ran away. That in itself is one thing, to run away, especially in the context of this situation. They were in a Vedic culture. The culture was such that you couldn't run away from your duties. They're even saying that our husbands and brothers, fathers, sons, they will not accept us anymore, even in the home. That was the culture, that if the lady left the home, then she wouldn't be accepted back. That was the culture at the time. So they'd actually taken that step of going away, leaving their home, knowing that this is the situation, this is the culture of that time. So they've actually left this. And then Krishna is saying, better than just leaving your duties is going back and doing your duties, but not being attached to the duty. Right? All right, so unless there's any comments or questions, we could read on. Asmita Mataji, would you like to continue?
Thank you. The Supreme Personality of Godhead replied, "My dear wives of the Brahmanas, rest assured that your husbands will not neglect you on your return, nor will your brothers, sons, or fathers refuse to accept you. Because you are my pure devotees, not only relatives, but also people in general, as well as the demigods, will be satisfied with you. Krishna is situated as a supersoul in everyone's heart. So someone who becomes a pure devotee of Krishna immediately becomes pleasing to everyone. The pure devotee of Krishna is never inimical to anyone. Nor can any sane person be an enemy of a pure devotee. Transcendental love for me does not depend upon bodily connection. Krishna said further, but anyone whose mind is always absorbed in me will surely very soon come to me for my eternal association.
So, so this is the test. This is the test to know who is a pure devotee. How do we know who is a pure devotee? There's one symptom which is considered the highest symptom of someone's character, which defines them as a pure devotee. How can we know who is a pure devotee? Did anyone see in this paragraph?
I think there are many definitions of that, but one of them I can say, like, who live completely for Krishna.
Sorry, I couldn't hear, Prabhuji.
Who live for Krishna.
One who lives for Krishna, yes. But even those who are not pure devotees, even they're trying, but we may not be a pure devotee trying to live for Krishna. There is of course many symptoms of pure devotee.
Yeah.
Even up to 26 in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, it says there are 26 qualities of pure devotee. So, but one is in this paragraph, one is picked out in particular.
I think
sometimes Prabhupada he writes devotees this, devotees that, but sometimes Prabhupada writes pure devotee. And so that's significant when Prabhupada when he says pure devotee, he's being more specific. So Prabhupada says that in this paragraph about pure devotee.
I think it's anemical.
Okay, sorry.
What's the quality?
Anemical.
Never inimical. Yeah.
It becomes pleasing to everyone. That's what.
Yes, he's never inimical. Prabhupada says, the pure devotee of Lord Krishna is never inimical to anyone, nor can any sane person be an enemy of a pure devotee. Yeah. So this is the outstanding characteristic of a pure devotee. Huh? So this is something which is not very cheap. Huh? This is the test which one can measure a pure devotee. Huh? That even if someone is inimical to the person, even if someone is spiteful and causes all difficulties to the pure devotee, they're never inimical. They never retaliate. Huh? This is actually the test.
One who serves Krishna selflessly.
Selflessly, yeah, that's right. That's another one, yeah, definitely. Yes.
Because that's the reason Srila Prabhupada achieved, his goal within a short time. Because he didn't have any personal agenda at all.
Yes, Prabhupada's goal was to give Krishna consciousness to the whole world.
Yeah.
So that also requires this being not inimical, He didn't think that these people are worthy, these people are not worthy, like that, you see. So he thought everybody was worthy to receive Krishna consciousness. So that's another way of looking at this selflessness that Prabhupada had,
I think it's
he didn't see any bad qualities in anyone. He just saw good qualities in everyone. Yeah.
Okay, because everyone is servant of Krishna. Only thing, some people know that by being devotee of Krishna, and some don't. So that's why Krishna consciousness for awareness.
Krishna consciousness. What was the last part, Prabhu?
Awareness. To
Awareness. Awareness. Yeah.
To let people know that.
Yes.
Prabhuji,
Your camera is off right now. We're not able to see you. I don't know if it was intended.
Prabhuji, I have a question. Maybe not for today's forum, but perhaps later. Because the main purpose of Krishna and all his in avatars and all his pure devotees, as you just mentioned, Prabhupada's whole intention and his goal was to take us back to, or give us Krishna, or introduce us to Krishna. So why when Krishna knew, I mean, the main intention is to take us all back to the spiritual world and become his pure devotees, why does Krishna allow Kali Yuga to happen? I mean, it's not for today, I'm sorry. It's completely, but I'm just wondering, because all the devotees, the pure devotees we talk about, we are reading Prabhupada's books. So I mean, I know that there are some of the spirits in the spiritual world, they wanted to be master of their own. And so they came down to the material world. But Krishna, knowing it all, why? And I know there are the effects of karma, people had to go through, people had to suffer for what they have done. But why can't it all be done within the spiritual realms, in the spiritual world? Because even they are under the modes of the three modes. Why bring it as down as Kali Yuga? But maybe not for today. I don't know. Probably it's unrelated to the.
Well, so there's two things. So one is why there's a material world. You're asking that also. And why within the material world there's a Kali Yuga. So that's one reason why we can't do all these non-Krishna conscious activities in the spiritual world, because the spiritual world is Krishna-centered and the material world is self-centered. And then Kali Yuga is the most what's the word? It's the most is like the most concentrated expression of selfishness within all of the yugas. The Kali Yuga is the most self-centered. So in the Chaitanya Bhagavat, the demigods, they're really glorifying Kali Yuga like anything. They're saying this is the best of all the ages. Kali Yuga's coming. Kali Yuga's coming. It's amazing. So one might think, what? Kali Yuga's coming? And the demigods are jumping in ecstasy? Why? Because they know that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu comes in the Kali Yuga. So they're really happy because they know, they're like really meditating that, it's the worst of all ages, the worst of all people. They can get delivered so easily by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in the age of Kali. So they're really excited. They're so pious, the demigods. They don't have the qualities of people in the Kali Yuga. They're not influenced even by Kali Yuga. But they're just amazed that Krishna has made this Kali Yuga. Because even in the Kali Yuga, even the people who have got the most degraded qualities, they can be saved by Chaitanya Nitai, And so they're really glorifying Kali Yuga by saying, because Krishna, he says that you have to come to me, surrender unto me. Mamekam Sharanam Braja. You have to come to me. Braja means you have to come. You have to go to him. You have to go to Braja in another way of saying. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he comes to you. Whether you want him or not, he comes after you. So they're glorifying the Kali Yuga because in other yugas you have to go to Krishna. But in the Kali Yuga, Krishna will run after you. So this is from Chaitanya Bhagavat, why the Kali Yuga exists. So it's very beneficial for us. Even if we don't want Krishna, he'll force it down our throat.
Yeah, no, thank you. Because you do wonder sometimes that, why wasn't I born in a different age? Why in Kali Yuga? but okay.
Well, why be born in a difficult age? You know, where the process of self-realization is so difficult. Look at it that way. we're so fortunate. We've just got a really easy way to be Krishna conscious. Chant and dance and feast. Prabhupada said this is our religion. The constant party. You have to do 3 things. You have to chant, you have to dance, and you have to feast. On Krishna Prasadam, of course. So that's our religion, you know.
Hari Bol. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Yeah, first of all, we have to understand what Kali Yuga means. Right?
Yes.
And who created it? Where is it from? Because Kali Yuga, there's a sinful activity, right? Full of sinful activities. And that's not done by Krishna. That's done by us. So Krishna, what Krishna does, Krishna gives us a solution by giving a bhakti. That's my understanding is. If there is no sinful activities, there is no Kali Yuga.
Yes.
Okay, it's all predicted and it's happening. But I'm going to the root. What is Kali Yuga? That's the sinful activities. And that creates Kali Yuga.
Definitely, yeah. Like coronavirus. If you just take coronavirus, for example.
Yeah.
If people are not, you know, keeping bats in the marketplace or eating in such horrible conditions that they, you know, pass on viruses, then we wouldn't have coronavirus, right? So just how Prabhu was saying that, if we don't have these sinful activities, we wouldn't have to be in a sinful age.
But Krishna is so kind, so he's showing you the way for the solution, you see?
So we can move on to the Krishna book again. Thank you for the question, Mataji. I hope that was helpful for everybody as well. Yeah. Okay. So who is the next reader? Was it Apurva Mataji? Are you still with us, Apurva Mataji?
Panchali. I think Panchali is next.
Is it Panchali next? Okay, sorry, yeah.
Panchali, yeah, she said verbally she was going to go. That's why I put 3 or 4.
You can go ahead, Mataji, if you want to. I mean, I'm fine either way. If you want me to read or if you want to read.
I'll read one little paragraph and then Panchali can read. Sorry, where are we? I've just lost our place.
The Supreme Personality of Godhead replied. I think that's where we are. No, we read that one.
It's
after
just
being instructed.
Okay.
After being instructed.
Right at the top. Thank you. After being instructed by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, all the wives returned home to their respective husbands. Pleased to see their wives back home, the Brahmanas sat together with them and executed the performances of sacrifices, as enjoined in the Shastras. According to Vedic principle, religious rituals must be executed by the husband and wife together. When the Brahmanas' wives return, the sacrifice was duly and nicely executed. One of the Brahmanas' wives, however, who had been forcibly checked from going to see Krishna, began to remember him as she heard of his bodily features. Being completely absorbed in his thought, she gave up her material body, conditioned by the laws of nature.
Okay, so in this one, I think we discussed this second part of the paragraph last week, where we discussed how one of the wives, they couldn't actually go to Krishna. So she just gave up her life and went back to Godhead there on the spot. Such was the situation that they couldn't leave. But all the other wives, they managed to go, and they came back and their husbands were pleased. So just taking again from the previous paragraph and this one together, why is it that the husbands were pleased now that these wives had returned. What quality did they have that made their husbands so pleased that their wives had returned? And we discussed that quality previously.
I think it's the devotion of the wives, because now the Brahmanas realized that, they were very ritualistic, but they didn't have any devotion. Whereas their wives were very simple and simple-hearted women who didn't know all the literatures of the Vedic scriptures, but because they had the pure devotion for the Lord, they realized that they were lacking this, it's just lacking of something that if you're giving an exam and if you can't pinpoint that last question, you're not going to pass that exam. So that's where they were. They knew everything, but they didn't have that devotion. So they, even when they leave their bodies, they were not going to attain all their life. They spend in ritualistic ceremonies, but the final goal they're not going to reach because they didn't have that devotion. And whereas their wives didn't know anything of this ritualistic Vedic literature, but because of their love and devotion for Krishna, they surpassed their husbands. Spiritually, they were surpassed their husbands.
Okay. So because they're Brahmanas' wives, as far as I've seen, that they do understand what their husbands are doing, because they're participating with their husbands in the ceremonies. So I don't know if it's mentioned that they don't know what their husbands are doing actually, but they do know more than their husbands, in the sense that they do know Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And that there's something that's mentioned here, that their husbands were very pleased that their wives had returned. So when you think of the ordinary situation in that time, if someone had left the home, if the wife had left the home, and then they would not feel so welcome to be back. But in this situation, there was a different outcome, that the wives had left the home, and when they came back, the husbands were still very accepting, like we see in the Ram Leela in Ramayana, isn't it? That someone complained that Sita Devi, she left the home, therefore why should you accept her back? Now that's a whole long story, right? But in that situation, Lord Ram had to prove, that he was dharmic, or that he was following the principles to the letter of the law. So that was his mission. The mission of Lord Ram was to follow the principles to the letter of the law, and therefore Sita couldn't return back. But in this situation, the Brahmana Patnis, they're welcomed back by the Brahmanas, because they have this one quality that's brought out, which we discussed previously.
So it's when Brahmanas' wives come back, and the Brahmanas accepting them. So to me, my realization is they both have a realization. That's why it's working that way.
They do both have realization. Yeah, we'll come on to that actually. Right, in a couple of paragraphs, their realization as well. Right. At this particular point in the story, they're welcoming them back. And I'll just say why. Is because they're not inimical, you see. Because they're not envious. They didn't leave because they envied their husband. You see. So generally, if the wife leaves home, she thinks my husband is not able to provide for me, or this or that. That was the point in this rule or this principle of the Vedic culture, that the wife wouldn't leave home. They wouldn't leave because they're envious of the husband, or in other words, they think there's somewhere better to go. But here, because they were not actually envious, they could leave and also come back. Because the husband saw that shining quality in their wives. They were not inimical. But even though they said not to go, and they went, still they didn't feel that the wives they left because they're envious, or because they're angry against me, or because they have something against me. They left because they had a higher purpose to go. because they went to surrender to God, they went to surrender to Krishna, and they came back still. So imagine someone goes to surrender to Krishna, you know, they're a surrendered devotee, Krishna accepts them even, and still they come back to serve you. In this case, they came back to serve their husbands. That's actually a really extraordinary thing? You know, they were already surrendered devotees of Krishna. They would, even if they didn't go back, Krishna would still protect them. But still, they did what Krishna said rather than what they wanted. Still, they came back home, and the husbands could see, yes, see, they not inimical. They've come back. So they were basically, in other words, for non-inimical, they were sincere. They were so sincere. They're very sincere that they actually came back to perform those duties.
There is one example. Gandhi Bapu, he had argument with his wife. I don't know much in details. And Gandhi Bapu got very angry. He never gets angry, but he got very angry. And he told his wife, just get out of here, few times. And when he said first time, she was not leaving. And Gandhi Babu said again, I said, get out of this place, 3 times. So then she left, but she just went out. She didn't go far. And she was just sitting on the bench. And then, I don't know, after a few hours, Gandhi Bapu went out for something, and he saw she's still sitting there. And Gandhi Bapu said, what are you still doing here? And she said, I haven't got anywhere else to go. Then Gandhi Babu said, okay, come back in. So when he said that, get out of here or whatever, he didn't mean it.
No.
But probably he tried to convince her, whatever understanding or whatever.
Yeah.
Good reason behind it.
Yeah. So this is the thing. So there's a great difference between the devotees who have got no envy, the pure devotee, and those who have got some personal motivation for doing something. Yeah. Like Prabhu said earlier, selflessness. So if someone is inimical, they cannot be selfless.
No.
This is the thing. Does anyone have any comments or questions?
Prabhu, it's actually here. I do.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. The last sentence in that paragraph.
Yes.
I don't know why I've lost my space now. I don't know if the book page just turned over.
Being completely absorbed in his thought, she gave up her material body.
Yeah, that one.
Conditioned by the laws of nature.
Yeah, that part.
Yeah.
There's a lady that wasn't allowed to go and didn't go. She was absorbed in his thoughts, but then I didn't understand what they meant.
So she was actually able to give up her life through meditation. That's what it's meant there.
Oh.
So she wasn't allowed to go, so she sat down and focused her mind on Krishna. And by this, extreme concentration on Krishna, the soul was deeply yearning for Krishna. The soul left the body. Yeah, that was the power of her meditation. Well, that's like the Brahma Tejas that she had, that she could just leave the body at will. So we see that in different pastimes, actually, that comes up, that power to do that. So I know we've just got a couple of minutes left, but it could be a whole big topic. But if you want to look into it in your own time. So for those who are following our Shreema Bhagavatam group, the daily Shreema Bhagavatam, we were just hearing a similar pastime in the Shreema Bhagavatam. Does anyone remember which chapters we are reading in the last couple of days? Another pastime where a very chaste lady has given up her life.
the Canto 4 about Sati Devi and Shiv.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, exactly. And what happened in that pastime, just very briefly? Does anyone know?
At Saturday, shall I try? So
Yes.
Satidevi's father was performing a ritual. I can't remember. He was performing something, and they weren't invited because Satidevi's father did not like Lord Shiva, and Satidevi wanted to go along with Lord Shiva to his father and attend the ceremony. Lord Shiva asked her not to because he said, I will not be welcomed, and you, being a devoted wife, you will not be able to bear your father saying cruel words towards me. But despite that, Sachdevi went there, and she couldn't bear when her father insulted Lord Shiva really badly. And she gave up her life. She performed, I think she performed something on fire, I think.
It's called Sati. Yeah, it's actually what it's called.
Yes, and she gave up her life.
Yeah, in English it's called immolation.
Yeah, self-immolation. Yes.
Yeah, self-immolation.
Yeah.
So many people have misunderstood this in the present day. In fact, in a horrible way. And I know we're just up to time, but since the questions come up, so actually in India they do a horrible thing where they throw the wife into the fire after the husband. Even it's illegal, but this is what kind of
now, hasn't it?
Huh?
It's stopped now.
Yeah, yeah. But until very recently, these things were happening. You know, that the idea was that you are the wife of such and such. Therefore, now that your partner has left, then you should also be thrown in the fire. What a horrible thing to do. Really disgusting.
Can I add something?
Yeah, I'll just finish on this point. That but actually that wasn't the case. Neither in actually the case of Sati, who is the personification of the chastity to her husband, and nor in the case of this wife of this Brahmana, because they actually had the power within to leave their body. That was the chastity, and it's explained in that pastime that she actually burned herself from within. She meditated on her husband, Lord Shiva, who's so powerful, and she was actually able to burn her body from within. So this is actually the power of the chastity. I hope that answers the question a bit better, Shashi Mataji.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you.
Yeah, and my mom was going to add something as well.
I just wanted to add that becoming a sati was a ritual which wasn't, in the Satyuga, it wasn't forced upon the woman, but because the woman was so chaste and they couldn't live without their husband. So this is why they would die with husbands. And if they didn't die, there was an austerity for them. So if you read about Kunti and the Pandavas, so the Pandava had two wives.
Yeah.
And they both wanted to become sati because they really didn't want to leave. But Mother Kunti had to perform the austerity of staying behind, looking after the children. So actually, this is how it was performed to become sati. But then gradually it went on to where the wife were not really attached to their husband so much, and they were forced to die. So it became, in that sense, after the Satyuga went. So it was two different things. So initially it was like, it was the desire of the wife to do it, but then later on, in later yugas, they were forced.
Yeah, good point. Yeah, but yeah, such a horrible thing, like how religion is completely perverse. People are just taking the activity without understanding the motivation, and these ladies, innocent ladies, were just being forced into a fire. It's a horrible thing.
Not just women, I think children
that was
were
Madhvi in the pastime of Pandu, King Pandu. He had two wives. One was Kunti and one was Madhvi. So Madhvi actually performed the sati with her husband. Yeah. Okay, I thought it might be a big topic, so it would go on a little bit. Did you want to add something, Panchali?
I said it wasn't just the women. I think it was kids as well. When young girls, very, I mean, children, they were married to, very old men. And when those men died, even children were sometimes forced, I think, to perform sati. I could be wrong, but or was that just be widows and stay like widows for the rest of their lives, or perform sati?
Okay.
Just recalling a movie. Could be fictionalized there.
So anyhow, so we have a few examples of what it really means, that it was based on the attachment to the husband. Or in this case, even in the attachment to Krishna, one can give up their body and go back to Godhead. So we'll end here, and we'll continue next week. And it's quite an interesting place which we stop, because now the next week we'll start from where the Brahmanas are speaking. Okay, what their realization is. And that's quite an interesting section to finish this chapter. Okay. So then, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So we'll do one round of Hare Krishna Japa now. Very soon. Who's excited about Gaur Punim? A little bit. Just this much. I'm quite excited this year about Gaur Punim. It's quite close to the end of lockdown, isn't it? I don't know if it's after lockdown. Is it after lockdown? Does anyone know? No?
No.
Oh, that's a shame. Well, in any case, it's a very exciting festival. One of my favorites. I was thinking, if you'd like, then we could do an extra class and then go through the pastimes of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu.
That would be lovely.
It's not something I planned to do. I just kind of felt inspired from today. So let's see, if anyone likes, you could send me a message to say if you're interested. Then we could, and also if Amu Mataji is very kindly available to host us, she does wonderfully every week, then we could have an extra session.
Could we touch upon the Shikshastakam a bit, please, Prabhu? Or would that be too?
Yeah, we could do that. We could do that as well. Yeah, I wouldn't mind doing a separate class on that if you want to as well. We can do like a few classes. We can do one on the Shikshastakam. We can do one on the birth and activities of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Yeah, so open to suggestions, what you'd like to hear. I'll try and serve you in that way. Yeah, we can do Shikshastakam. I did some classes on Shikshastakam before, so I have some notes. Yeah. Okay.
Any day is fine with me, Prabhu, except Wednesday.
So I'm not able to hear you.
Oh, I don't know. Except Wednesday, any day is fine, Prabhu.
Any day except Wednesday?
Yeah, it's fine for me.
Yeah, all right. Yeah, Wednesday is not so good for me also. Could
Thursdays?
potentially do Friday. Thursday works. No,
Friday, I've got Bhakti Priya's class.
Yeah.
I don't want to miss that.
Yeah. I look forward to that as well now.
Oh, you're also going to my wife's classes, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that would be
Thursdays.
Thursday, yeah? Thursday
Yeah.
work for everybody else?
Yeah.
Yeah, for Shamrani Mataji.
Yeah, Thursday.
Amu Mataji, does that work for you, most importantly?
Yes, Prabhu. Okay.
Great.
It doesn't work
Yeah.
for us because I have my mentee Sangha.
Madhvi Mataji, we're not able to hear you.
I said that it doesn't work for us because I have my mentee Sangha.
It does or it doesn't? I couldn't hear. Does not work.
No.
It's very hard to hear. Can someone repeat? I couldn't hear, sorry.
It doesn't work because Mataji's got her mentee group on the day.
Oh, Thursday is not working for Madhvi Mataji. Okay. So I guess we're going to have to see, like, if Thursday works for most people, we may have to go with it, unfortunately. I'm willing to do Thursday, Friday, even
Monday?
Saturday. I could do Saturday even.
Yeah.
I don't know if that works for Amu Mataji. Saturday?
Yes, Prabhu. That's fine, Prabhu.
Yeah.
Yeah, Saturday will be nice.
So maybe
Yes,
if you could message me what days do work for you, then we can see what's like what's best for the majority. That's probably the easiest way to do it. Especially Amu Mataji Wednesday doesn't work for you, so let's not look at Wednesday as an option. Any other day. And in terms of when, so when is Gaura Purnima? Is it on the 26th or something? I don't know. Is it 26th?
28th, I think, Prabhu, Sunday.
28th, is it?
Yeah, Sunday.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's in like, we've got 3 whole weeks. Almost, we've got about 3 weeks. So we could potentially do one extra class next week, and then one class the week after. So maybe the 20th, if we were going for Saturday, the 20th and the 27th. Yeah.